Welcome to the JDC West 2021 Not-for-Profit Case Presentation sponsored by the Associates. Thank you to our judges, Sam McLaughlin from RBC Dominion Securities, Susan Goldie from Narima Consulting, Lorianne Dewick from IJM Canada, Monica Managri from Element Realty, and Charlene Rock from Victoria General Hospital Foundation. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. I am our academic moderator who will be timekeeping and controlling the overall flow of the presentation. Time intervals will be noted in the Zoom chat by myself, beginning at the 10-minute mark. Following the presentation, I will facilitate the question and answer period. Judges will indicate their intent to ask questions using the hand raised function, which I will call on them to indicate the next question. No questions or comments will be permitted from the audience at any time. The audience is also prohibited from communicating to the presenters in any form, including Zoom or via other mediums during the presentation or questions. If you are an observer, please ensure that your camera is off and microphone is muted. Once the question period has completed, the Zoom meeting will end. Competitors, you are free to begin.
Good afternoon. On my first visit to my parents' native country of Ethiopia, I fell in love with the people and I fell in love with the culture that I had missed my entire life growing up in Canada. But when I found out that the country that I held so dear and near to my heart had one of the highest rates of sex trafficking affecting women and children, ones that even I met, I was absolutely shocked and disgusted. Your organization rescues and gives these women and children hope for a better tomorrow and a better future. Good afternoon, Lorianne, executives and judges. My name is Hannah and I'm here today with my colleagues, Delilah and Claire, and we are Optimize Consulting. We are so excited to present to you today as the largest anti-slavery organization in the world and tell you about how you can help even more women and children going into the future. Going into our executive summary, today we want to answer the question of how you can best generate awareness amongst both existing and potential new stakeholders in Western Canada. The 3 criteria we're going to be pulling directly from our analysis tools, and our solution is going to involve beginning a new generation of young ambassadors that will rep the IJM brand and also continue your mission going far into the future. And overall, we're going to raise more awareness and $17 million by 2030 for your organization to meet your overall goal. Going to a quick background, we want to talk about your 2030 vision and that walk-free report. The 3 main things that we pulled from this analysis were that it's important to engage with businesses to raise awareness of your cause. Also, you're working towards enacting this federal legislation, and this is a really impressive thing. And we think that a good step towards this is awareness, and we're really going to highlight that in our recommendation today. Finally, an important part of your 2030 vision is equipping champions and ambassadors, and that's going to also play a big role in our entire recommendation today. So overall, our key takeaway from this quick background analysis is that we need to work towards raising awareness, and a big part of this is equipping more young Canadian champions with the mission of your organization. And I'll pass it off to Delilah to talk about a more situational analysis here.
Thank you, Hannah. A situational analysis of your organization will focus on 3 main organizational goals. The first being, of course, to increase your revenue by 21% in year 1. You also would like to establish 4 new campus chapters, and we're going to show you how that will happen. And you would like to provide a TED Global keynote speaker for the next time TED Global is occurring. Currently, the barriers to your success are limited revenue streams, especially in Western Canada, where you are solely relying on the private donors and you don't have any corporate partnerships or corporate donors. And that's an opportunity for you. There's also a lack of student voices due to the chapters that were once held in Simon Fraser University, for example, but now are not active anymore. And we will be addressing how you can bolster student voices. Also, COVID-19, the pandemic we are currently living through, has placed some limits on in-person events. However, that may change in the future, but we want to show you how you can leverage technology today so that you can start today. Lastly, few people know about you, and you want to bring that awareness across Canada. So what you need is a solution that leverages technology to build awareness in Western Canada and raise funds. And you're going to be able to do that by finding new sources of revenue to fund awareness efforts. I'll now pass it off to Claire to talk about a stakeholder analysis.
So when looking at this stakeholder analysis we conducted of your organization, it is really important to note that you have done a great job of engaging local government officials. However, you have yet to engage these federal government members of parliament, which will be essential when looking at the long term of your organization. Another thing to note is corporations. Currently, you have worked with some big corporations like Walmart and Target in the US. However, you have yet to work with a Canadian corporation, and this is something that we really want to highlight when moving forward with our solution. Another one is making use of the campus charters. These are a really great way to leverage new opportunities for your organization in the future. So these three stakeholders are ones we want to highlight, and they're especially the corporation and the campus chapters. We really want to look at increasing their interest in your organization. So our key takeaway here is that you need to build a strong partnership with a Canadian corporation. And now to look at the criteria. As you'll know, our criteria come directly from our 3 key takeaways, and we are focusing on inspiring youth, sourcing sustainable funding, and increasing your visibility. So we used our criteria to help validate our solution against some of these different alternatives. The first one is looking at attracting new stakeholders. Why you do this is this could help achieve your 2030 vision. It could help increase awareness. However, partnering with influencers or Canadian musicians might not be the ideal solution for your organization, as these influencers and musicians might not be in it for the right reasons. They could be using this solely as a way to gain awareness for themselves, and they would have to most likely make changes to their lifestyle that will align with your organization's mission. And it's just hard to display authenticity here and hard to make sure that they are really staying aligned with your organization's values. The next one is looking at engaging the federal government. As we said previously, this is something that your organization needs to do, as they have the power to pass the End Modern Slavery Act. However, right now, it might not be the best solution, as COVID will present some challenges to get this bill passed. However, we really want to highlight that this is a really important long-term goal for your organization. Right now, you need to focus on raising awareness and making the act as high profile as possible. So later on, you have built a foundation to make it easier to get this act passed. Our last one is focusing on corporate partnerships and working with these campus charter programs. Why you do this is you want to focus on these youth who are pursuing education and are interested in change. And you can do this by launching your 4 new campus chapters. This aligns with your goals. And one why not would be, it could be a difficulty in securing a corporate partnership. However, we will get into this a little bit further. So this leads us to our solution for you that we are very excited to introduce, called A New Generation. So a quick overview of what we're going to get into is a corporate partnership with a Canadian company, an awareness campaign for that company, and then focusing on youth ambassadors. And now I'll pass it off so we can get into this plan.
Taking a look at what corporation would you want to partner with in the first place, we have chosen Canadian Tire. Why is that? Because they are a huge company in Canada. They have Canadian roots and they are very profitable. They have a revenue of $14 billion each year. And so they're well positioned financially to help you grow as well. And why else would we choose them? They align with your mission and values. For example, their supplier code of business conduct involves high standards for each of their suppliers and policies related specifically to child labor, work conditions, health and safety, etc. So this is a great corporation that is financially able to help you, well positioned according to their own company values, and also accessible to many Canadians. So for example, 90% of Canadians actually live within 15 minutes of a Canadian Tire. They are a great organization to spearhead your mission in Canada. So what you need to do is secure that formal partnership with Canadian Tire and explore grant opportunities with them. You would need to, first of all, create a memorandum of understanding. And in order to do that, you will need to work with your board of directors to create all of the items that you want out of the partnership and come to Canadian Tire and present that. And this will include written statements of objectives, deliverables, and your goals of the partnership. And we recommend asking for $1 million each 4 years, every 4 years until 2030 is what we've forecasted it as. And as well as setting up an employee gift matching program, which you have the mechanism on your website already made. Now, Canadian Tire, what's in it for them? So they obviously have a corporate social responsibility, and Canadians are looking towards these big corporations to take a stance, a positive stance, and make an impact with their decisions. So while partnering with IJM Canada, they are going to benefit by getting better visibility. They are going to get better shareholder returns as consumers want socially responsible consumerism today. And actually 55% of Canadian consumers value companies that stand for a shared purpose, such as making sure that their suppliers are following high standards of manufacturing. And now Claire will talk about what you're going to do with that grant money after making those partnerships.
Awesome, thanks Delilah. So as she mentioned, after securing a partnership, we recommend going into a corporate campaign. This will begin with a series of videos showcasing rescue victims and bringing criminals to justice. This will help directly increase awareness and visibility around your organization. It'll showcase sustainable consumer purchases, and this video campaign we've estimated to cost around $50,000. Another one is looking at sponsors, like targeting sponsors like Canadian Tire that align with your organization's expectations. And this will help alleviate any advertising costs. And an advantage to this is the goodwill and the positive association image that will be reflected back onto this corporate sponsor. And a key benefit here is a long-term higher cost strategy that helps raise awareness on a professional scale.
So the next prong of our strategy involves our youth ambassadors. And this is a really important part of our recommendation because we really believe that youth are the future and they're the future of your organization. So you noted that your campus chapters have been having issues and they haven't been too successful. They tend to fall apart after a few years. And as someone who's been a part of quite a few student groups, I can definitely understand how this happens, but we have quite a few strategies to mitigate this. This prong includes establishing some campus chapters at some universities in Western Canada that you aren't active at yet. Why would a student want to do this? This is a great opportunity for public speaking and governance involvement and creating a local platform, gaining marketing experience, and really speaking up for an issue that you're passionate about. We also think that this can play a strategic role in achieving your goal of passing that End Modern Slavery Act. We think that we've seen in the past that members of parliament have listened to the voices of youth. We tend to be very persistent and very, very passionate about the causes that we do. So we think that this is a good way to fulfill that strategy as well. And we're going to do this through reviewing and reassessing your campus chapter formation process and giving them some more opportunities for visibility. So going to the next slide, I really wanted to highlight how active Canadian youth are in the not-for-profit sector and in activities that really advocate for social justice. As we see on the slide, groups like Kiwanis International, Rotary Club, the Anti-Slavery Society of Canada, Isaac, Engineers for a Sustainable World. These are all clubs that you could source from and speak to because you have common values. You both want to end modern slavery. You both want to eradicate injustice worldwide. And we think that it's really important to leverage relationships with groups like this that already have strong networks on campuses in order to really make people buy in to the IJM mission and really create that strong campus network going forward. Also, we've seen that youth have begun to change the world's perspectives. We saw this with Greta Thunberg and her insane speech that drew an immediate amount of attention. And we think that youth speaking up like this can be a key part to this recommendation as well. So going into a bit more detail, the first part of this would be revamping that startup process that you have currently available on your website for people to start a campus chapter. We think it's valuable to add on to this and personally engage and invite youth that you may have sourced from your relationships with these other groups to attend meetings with IJM staff. May they be senior, may they be mid-level, and really develop relationships and give them an opportunity to authentically learn more about your organization so that they can buy in and really become long-term supporters and passionate about the mission. And establishing staff supports for executives to really help them with succession so that these chapters can be long-standing is also really important. We also want to give youth an opportunity to speak out visibly about your cause. And we think that having them speak at campus talks like the ones that TEDx has at university campuses across Canada is an amazing way to do this. It gives a fresh perspective on the IJM mission from a young person's perspective and is more likely to engage more awareness and engage more buy-in from the people attending these events. So overall, through this strategy, you'll be able to raise awareness by engaging more youth and really secure that next generation of IJM, really clarifying how powerful your mission is and making it longstanding going into the future. And I'll pass it off to Delilah to talk a bit more about the financials of our recommendation for you.
An overview of the financials focuses on your main organizational revenue goal for $25 million in 2030. Now that narrows down to 14.25 for Western Canada specifically in 2030, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Now, our revenue forecast is $17 million in 2030, which surpasses the 14.25 million that you have aimed for. And of course, you will also achieve more than 4.84 million in 2021, as the estimate for 2021 is 5 million, approximately 5 million. And so the strategy involves $1 million grant from Canadian Tire every 4 years, and as well with the employee donation interwoven into Canadian Tire's grant. You will also have an estimated $800,000 from donations with a 5% increase each year. And in year 4, you will look to gathering similar grants with new Canadian corporations, such as, for example, Blue Notes or Sleep Country Canada, and have increased revenue streams as well as that employee donation stream of $800,000 in year 4, increasing 5% each year. And from the awareness campaign, we estimate that you will have an increase of 5% in private donors each year, all thanks to those amazing video series fueled by your grants. And Claire will now talk about some risks and the mitigation plan.
So one risk that we identified is obviously difficulty in securing a partnership with Canadian Tire. Maybe there's difficulty just in the times of COVID, it might delay the process. However, one mitigation to this is looking into other sustainable and ethical Canadian companies in the consumer goods section, such as Sleep Country Canada or Blue Nose. And we also have a timeline here, but we can get into this later on, and we'll just pass it off to Hannah for the conclusion.
Thank you, Claire. So overall today, we told you about a recommendation that focuses on a new generation, a generation that I saw when I traveled to Ethiopia for the first time, a generation that's passionate about changing the future of its people. And I know that your organization cares about pushing the envelope forward for the 40.3 million people who are currently suffering from modern slavery. We thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your time. And we would be happy to answer any questions in Q&A. Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes the presentation. I'll now open up the floor to judges to use the raised hand function to ask any questions. Susan, you can start.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. You have some really good and inspiring ideas. In relationship to Canadian Tire and them as a strong corporate partner, certainly it appears that their objectives and supplier mandate is well aligned with IJM's objectives. Are you aware, or what are your thoughts on kind of where their current community funding and where their current dollars go for supporting their objectives, and what how your $1 million ask might fit into their already existing mandate?
I can answer that. So I think that from what I'm aware, I know Canadian Tire does definitely have some money invested into the community already. And we think that this is a challenge that you're going to have to overcome. But we believe that your global status and your alignment with their mission and values, not only in general, but with their supply chain and really bringing products directly to customers, makes you extremely competitive in partnering with them. So we think that this is an important option to exhaust. If this doesn't work out though, part of our risk was really mitigating that by looking at other organizations with similar missions and values to Canadian Tire. But we think that this is a very reasonable option and you're in a competitive spot to partner with them. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
All right, Monica, you can go next.
Hi, thank you for that presentation. I did take note of your budget dollar value, $50,000 for that video campaign out of the assumed grant. I'm not seeing any other numbers for your financials in terms of your startups with the campuses or anything of that nature. Had you considered budgets for any of those projects or platforms?
Yes, that's a great question. So the campus startup program will mainly stem from you revamping the already existing advocacy package that you have on your website, and that would involve some startup costs, approximately $2,000 to refine that process. However, that isn't an explicit cost detailed in the presentation today. However, judging based on your experience creating your previous package, you will be equipped to refine that package and present it to new campuses.
Thanks.
All right, Sam, you're up next.
Hi, thanks for that for that presentation. I'm just wondering, $800,000 as a donation from employees. I looked it up. There's 58,000 employees at Canadian Tire, so that's not that big a lift. It's about $14 an employee. But could you detail a little bit more how you plan to drive that employee engagement?
Yes, for sure. The employee engagement starts from your website, which you already have the mechanism available to allow for that. And it will involve the employee making a contribution, which will then be matched by the corporation. And in order to drive that engagement from employees, we can work with management in the corporation you choose to partner with, such as Canadian Tire, to make sure that IJM's mission is visible and strikes a chord with employees. As you know, many people are aware of the issues in developing countries with labor and trafficking. However, they don't know what to do about it. And so allowing for them to do something in an easy way just by contributing a small portion of their paycheck will allow them to make a difference.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question if any of the judges have a question. Lorianne?
Sure. I guess my question would be really great that you brought up all of these other campus networks that already touch on similar issues. Like, how do you suggest, since they have separate mandates and IJM has a mandate, like, do you see people joining IJM? Do you see them working together? I was just kind of wondering, like, how you see those working.
Definitely. I think that as someone who's been involved in a few charity student groups, these people are often involved in more than one thing on campus, right? So we think that the people in these organizations are the people that you want as ambassadors for IJM. So we think that it's important to network with them and at least get them aware of the opportunities available. And we think that although not all of them will be interested, it's a great place to start. So that was our reasoning there.
All right, and that concludes the question and answer period. Thank you very much. Delegates and observers, you may now leave the call, and judges can join me on the next Zoom call.
Thank you very much, executives and judges, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.